Look at this delicious chocolate mousse. It's one of my favourite desserts, but I know that it's not quite as much chocolate as I'd get in this chocolate bar, or indeed in this chocolate ganache, which is melted chocolate with cream. Our chocolate mousse is a lot of air, and it's a great way to explore hallucinations in generative AI tools, the way that our generative AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot and Gemini make things up to fill in the gaps when they don't have the knowledge. Welcome to Rose's AI, where we bake and we learn about artificial intelligence, and today we're going to be learning about generative AI hallucinations through the delicious chocolate mousse. So to make our lovely chocolate mousse, we've got 225 grams of dark chocolate that I've melted slowly over a pan of hot water, a knob of butter and 3 egg yolks. And I'm now ready to turn this small quantity of chocolate into a much larger volume of chocolate mousse by adding a lot of air. But first of all, we're going to make chocolate ganache by adding 150 ml of cream that's just been very gently whipped. Not whipped firmly, but just gently whipped. So I'm just going to pop that in the chocolate. And I'll actually take the chocolate out of the water when I do this, because it'll be easier for me to deal with. Pan away, pop it up there. And I'm going to use the metal spoon because it's easier to fold the chocolate in with the metal spoon. So let's just move that over there. Now we can mix the chocolate and the cream together to produce a lovely chocolate ganache, which is the basis for the chocolate mousse. But we were already seeing that our original 225 grams of chocolate has grown. And this is a little bit like what happens with our AI hallucinations. If you think of the real chocolate as being the real knowledge, it gets made more substantial by added ingredients that the generative AI generates and adds to the original knowledge. Sometimes accurately and sometimes not so accurately. So a little bit like our chocolate mousse looks quite substantial. It's not all chocolate. Right, so we've now got our chocolate ganache and we can start adding the air. And the air is in the form of the egg whites. So the 3 egg whites have been whisked up to soft peak, where we trap the air through a thin film of protein, and that adds volume to our chocolate mousse. So it's not as substantial as the chocolate ganache that I have in the bowl here, or the original bar of chocolate that we started off with. So let's just turn this off. And then we need to gently fold the chocolate ganache, which is the melted chocolate and the cream and the egg yolks with a little bit of butter, into the whipped up egg whites. And again, I'm going to use a metal spoon to fold the chocolate mixture into the egg whites as smoothly as I can. So we're adding air to our chocolate to increase the volume. It will give the impression that we've got a substantial, much larger volume of chocolate in the chocolate mousse than we started off with. So here we have a lovely mixed up chocolate mousse. We've added to the volume of that original chocolate and chocolate ganache with the cream, and we've got something that looks substantial but is actually a lot of air. But here's what's interesting. You can't tell the real chocolate from the cream, from the eggs, from the butter. It's all mixed in together. And this is exactly what happens with our AI hallucinations. It's not that the generative AI systems are trying to lie to us. It's that they genuinely don't know the difference between the original chocolate ganache that I had in this bowl and the whipped up chocolate ganache with the egg whites in this bowl, which has a lot of air. So it's not that they're trying to deceive us, it's that they genuinely don't know the difference. Now, here's something fascinating about hallucinations. Our generative AI systems, which are the type of AI systems that are prone to these hallucinations, prone to making things up when they don't have the accurate information that we're asking for, have improved. They have evolved. So the nature of the hallucinations that we're seeing have evolved. And that's good because there are fewer of them, but it can also be tricky because they are more subtly disguised within accurate information. So for example, I'm going to ask a generative AI tool to tell me about Professor Helen Mousse and her research on sourdough fermentation at Cambridge University. Now let's see what the AI comes up with. Okay, I'm sorry, but I couldn't locate any credible evidence of a researcher named Helen Mousse at University of Cambridge working on sourdough fermentation. Absolutely true, I made her up. Now, in the early days of our generative AI tools, it would have come up with a fabricated answer about somebody called Helen Mousse, who would have been conducting research on sourdough fermentation. So this is a huge improvement. The developers of our AI systems have put in guardrails that are reducing the kinds of fabrications that we used to get. But it's not all good news. It's not as if everything has turned into chocolate. There's still a bit of chocolate mousse in there. There's still a bit of air, a bit of added volume that's not quite as substantial as it seems. So let's try another question, and this time I'm going to ask a question about myself. What did my research, Professor Rose Luckin, at University College London's Knowledge Lab, where I've worked, show about the effectiveness of AI tutoring in secondary mathematics? So I'm going to put that into my tool. Okay, interesting. So here we have Rose Luckin, and her research shows that AI tutoring in secondary mathematics and related math interventions has some caveats, but the key findings pulled from available publications are presented. And so it says, although not always AI specific, Professor Luckin's work and affiliated projects support the view that personalised scaffolded support in mathematics, such as one-to-one tutoring, boosts confidence, engagement, and often progress. For example, and then it gives the example of a project called I Talk to Learn and points me at the University College London Knowledge Lab's research page about that project. And it is a project that uses an AI tutor in mathematics. It's all perfectly accurate and the reference is there and the web page is there. But it's not a project I worked on. And so unless you happen to know that, or unless you look at the detail, what we're getting is a lot of accurate information, but still that folded in inaccuracy blended with the accuracy. So there's still a hallucination in there, but it's less obvious. It's much more subtle. And that can make our lives more difficult. So it's not that the systems have stopped hallucinating altogether. Hallucinations have become more subtle. And so it can feel like very substantial, authoritative information, but you still need to check everything because there's highly likely to be some inaccuracies folded into the accurate information, a bit like our aerated egg whites are folded into the chocolate ganache to make our delicious chocolate mousse. So 3 things to think about as you're trying to decide whether you're being given a hallucination or whether you're being given accurate information by your generative AI tool. First of all, have a look at it. Does it wobble? Is it mousse or is it chocolate? Challenge the AI answer you've been given. Ask for the sources, push it, probe it, see if it gives. Make sure that you test to see if you're getting accurate answers. Secondly, recognise that often we get a lot of volume in the answers that we're given by our generative AI. It likes to give us a lot of information to appear as it's a really substantial answer. But remember, some of that substance may just be air, may just be whipped up. So look out for that over-verbose, over-detailed answer and make sure that you check to see if there's any hallucinations whipped into the accurate information that's probably there as well. And thirdly, remember that you can't see the chocolate ganache differentiated from the whipped up egg whites in our mousse. And in the same way, you can't always see just by looking the difference between the accurate information and the fabricated information that are intertwined in many of the answers that we're given by our systems. So you need to make sure that you really can tell what's true and what's fiction. Always test. Always challenge, always be aware that what you're being offered is something that's been mixed up and that some of what's been mixed in may just be air, as is the case with our lovely chocolate mousse. Just like with our delicious chocolate mousse, whipped up air and chocolate, our generative AI systems create volume from limited information by whipping up pattern computations around real knowledge. And sometimes That's what we need. We need something generated. Other times we need something more solid, like this bar of chocolate, something dependable, accurate facts. And we need to know the difference. Are we dealing with mousse? Are we dealing with chocolate? Are we dealing with chocolate ganache? We need our AI companies to do better at helping us to understand when what we're being offered is whipped up information, not all of which is substantial, and when we're being offered information that is true and accurate. And until that happens, we need to do the testing. So constantly ask yourself, am I being offered chocolate mousse with lots of air, or am I being offered something more solid, something more substantial? This is Rose's AI, and I hope the delicious chocolate mousse has helped you to understand something more about generative AI hallucinations.